Hi, my name is Paul Cresswell. Welcome to Paul's Tackle Reviews. The purpose of this channel is to give you reviews of tackle that's been out on the bank, tried and tested by an unbiased, unsponsored angler, and that's me. So today's video is much awaited, and I've had a lot of people saying, when are you going to do it? And the weather has scuppered it. Every time I've been out it's been raining. I can hardly believe the sun's out today, so I finally managed to record the video. Today there's going to be a lot of detail. It's going to be a long video. I don't know how long, but I'm going to give you all the information that I possibly can so that you can have a good understanding of what this pole's like, what it can do, and whether it's the right thing for you. I'll put lots of photos up there, and there will be some video of the pole in action later on. So if you've seen some of my previous videos, you'll have seen that back in March last year, I went to a fishery, Bitterwell Lake, and Paul Isaac runs it, excellent fishery, and he told me he got the new X75 from Preston. Would I like to have a go? And I filmed it kind of impromptu on the bank. I've uploaded that video. Lots of people have looked at that video. My pole at the time was a Maver 921, which has been an absolutely amazing pole for me. Never broken anything, really sturdy pole. But that pole was launched in 2019, and it felt to me, trying the X95, things had moved on quite a long way. And in fact, Paul said to me he had the X90 Superium. He felt the 95 was 20% better, so a real big step forward. Whether that's because they put graphene in, I don't know whether they'll ever tell us, but it was a big improvement. So I went to Todber Manor, excellent fishery, excellent shop, and I went to try a number of poles in the pole alley. Now the X95 is an amazing pole, but you need to be fishing 16 meters and 14.5, an awful lot to justify the jump up from the X75. That's not something I do in my fishing. My 16 meter section lives in the garage most of the time. Not very often I used it. So I went to look at the X75 and I went to compare it against what was out at the time. I've uploaded the video, very popular video, and I compared it to the Maver RXS Pro, which was $2,500, the Shimano Aero X7, which was $3,000, the $4,000 Daiwa Arity Pro, and the Guru Aventus 700 that was about £2,700. And the X75 beat all of those poles in my view. It was definitely the stiffest. It had the best recovery. I felt it was as strong as anything else, and the balance was brilliant. So I bought one for, if there's any non-anglers watching here, you will find this incredible, but I paid £1,900 for that. That isn't even top of the range. I've also bought a couple of mini extensions, one to fit the 5 and 6, one to fit the 7, 8 and the 9 and 10 are parallel. I bought some more top kits, and I bought 2 short number 3 sections. I do like a short 3, I'll talk about that more later, and an additional long number 3. I do fish venues where there is a lot of depth and you need a full top 3 for the length of the rig that you're fishing with. So since I bought this pole, I can't remember when it was. It would be, I think it was May. I reckon I've been out and used it at least 70 times on the bank. I do a lot of fishing. So let's talk about the pole, and the first thing I want to talk about is the top kits, because top kits for me are really important part of the pole. You get 9 supplied. You can look at the package online. It's a mixture of short, match, F1 and carp kits. There's 4 types of kit. There's match kits. Now these don't come with a roller puller, but you do have a little area that's been wrapped so you can drill for a puller if you want. And I would say they're good for hybrid elastics up to kind of 8 to 10, which is about 1.6 millimeters. You then have the F1 long kits. These have the standard Preston roller puller, and I would say, and I've used these with a 13 hybrid, which is about 2 mil, and I think that's perfectly fine. You might do more, but then there are the carp kits, and you can do anything you want with these. I've got top kits with red hydro set fairly tight in there, no worries whatsoever. They also have a slightly bigger roller puller for bigger elastics, which is a good thing. You do get 2 of the short one-piece kits, and I think you could put a 15 hybrid in them. Short kits don't really feature in my kind of fishing. They all come with bushes, and the bushes are different size, and like I say, the carp one you can get red hydro through, which is pretty thick. So, and they all have depth markers in black on the top kits up to 5 foot. It's okay. I still mark the side of the top kit with a bit of crayon where I'm fishing. I don't think to myself, oh, I'm fishing at 47 inches today. That's not how my brain works. I still put a little mark, but it does help you to build up knowledge of the depths that you're fishing, because you can easily reference that. So let's look at the weights of the top kits, and I'm going to put a table up and then talk while that table's up. So the match kits in total weigh 39 grams, that's 26 for the number 2 and 13. The F1 weigh 40 grams, 27 and 13. You can get them in black and a lighter colour, a light grey as well. I've got a couple of them. I'm not a big believer in that, but I've got a couple anyway. And the carp kits are 43 grams, that's 28 grams plus 15 grams. So none of them are what you'd call heavy. There isn't a lot of difference between the two. And to be honest, I wouldn't buy a match kit again. I'd just buy the F1 because the difference is negligible. It already comes with a roller puller on, and I don't mind personally using thin elastics through a wider bush at the end. It doesn't bother me. They are all 2.4 meters long, so that's roughly 8 foot, which I think is the perfect length. 2.4 to 2.5 is where your top kits need to be. The roller puller I've used a lot, I'm pleased to say, and it's absolutely brilliant, super smooth, better than just having a bush on the side. Is it as good as the Maver one, which I thought was brilliant? Yeah, they're both as good as each other. I don't feel either is better. Roller pullers are definitely better than just a straight hole in the side with a side puller. One of the big things about changing pole brands, going from Maver to Preston for me, is that I'm going to need to buy a lot of top kits, because the Maver ones were 22 mil and these are just over 18 millimeters. So you've got to, it's a big step to change pole, but I think Preston have made that possible, because the most you'll pay for a top kit is 65 quid, which when you look at what they've got in them, is absolutely amazing. So they all have the roller puller, the bush at the top. There's also a little liner that's already built into the number 2 section. They've got a wrap at the bottom. I think these top kits are absolutely perfect as they are. If you look at some of the other manufacturers, you can easily spend over £100 on a top kit. I think Guru and Daiwa are both that, and neither comes with a roller puller, so you've got another tenner on top or whatever to get that right. Just to say also, the long number 3 I bought, which is a number 4 on the Maver, was 120 quid, and the short number 3s, they're about 50 quid. So again, I think they've got the spares pricing bang on. Let's look at the joints on the pole. I think the joints are excellent, and the pole hasn't come apart while I'm using it. Now, I've never really had a pole that's come apart since I had a Shimano about 15 years ago, and the big sections used to come apart. But I did have the number 3 and the top kit stick one day. Now, I didn't need to get other people to help me untwist it. It just got stuck for a bit, but it was a match I fished where, let's say, we had heavy rain and very heavy rain for 4 hours solid. This was right at the end of the match. Obviously, I'm taking a soaking wet number 3, shoving it in the top kit, so you do run that risk. I do wax all of the joints on this pole, just rub a little bit of candle wax up and down them just to help that kind of thing. I think this is where the Maver was better. The Maver on the 3, 4 and 5 section had a Teflon joint, as they called it, and they never stuck, they never came apart, and to be honest, even after a couple of years use, it looked just like new. I think the Maver Teflon on the 3, 4 and 5 are just better, but every other pole in the market's got joints like the Preston. I've had no issues at all. You do get aligners pre-fitted in nice Preston blue to the 3, 4 and 5. They're absolutely brilliant. I have got some other branded ones. I've got some carbon ones in some of the other sections. I've got a bit of a mix. I don't really think it matters, just find one that fits. And if you align the numbers of the sections as you put them together, you do get the stiffest alignment of the pole as you're aligning it up down the spine of the pole. And I've said all of those words, and I never bother with that, and I never have bothered. And on the odd day I thought, I'll just try it. I can't really tell. I think if you'd have to be fishing full length to notice. Let's look at the performance of the pole, and from the very first time I could not believe the stiffness. It was definitely a step up for me, and the kind of recovery after you struck, there was no play. If you slap in the rig, you don't get that extra bounce. It just settles absolutely brilliantly. It feels very strong in the hand, and a mate of mine, just after I got it, he had a look at it and he said, it just feels absolutely solid. I've had no breakages using the pole. I did manage to put my knee on a number 3 section, and I can report that the number 3 section can't stand 13 stone plus of my knee on the section. I've had it repaired and I can still use that. There's a few rumours and there's people post on the internet, and I heard that rumour, I started it, that the 3 and 4 are brittle. I know other people with Superiums and they've not had a problem. We need to also remember the Superium was first launched in 2022. This is the newer version, so there's lots out there. A lot of breakages are user error, and I've been that user that's made errors, and I think a lot of people do that, or you drop the section and lo and behold 20 minutes later it folds in half. I don't think there's any top end match pole out there where you can put red hydro tight, fish an 023 hook length with the long number 3 or number 4 in whatever pole it is. This is why they make carp poles, because that is pushing it too far. Fine with the short 3. I've had a 17-pound fish with a 15 hybrid 016 hook length with the long number 3 in the X75. It's perfectly capable of landing really big fish, but there is a point beyond which you need a dedicated carp pole. It has a great finish. In the dry it ships beautifully. When it's fully wet it ships beautifully, and like every other pole on the market, when it's part wet, part dry, you've got a bit of water on your hands or there's light rain, it's a little bit more difficult, but it's got a brilliant finish on it, and the finish is as good as the Maver, which many people think is the best finish. I realised quite early on it was going to be a keeper, and so I sold 3 of my Maver poles, and I then bought the 13-metre power carp Superium pole, which gave me another 6 top kits, £1,000, and it's fully interchangeable with the X75. So it takes away a lot of those kind of, oh, am I going to get a spare concern. It's a proper big fish, but the performance up to 13 meters, which is how long it is exceptional, and there is a little bit in the video. I'm also going to show the swapping out one section of the power carp into the X75 so you can tell whether there's any difference. I'm now putting up a table with the weights of the sections of these poles, and what you can see is the X75 sections and the power carp, there is not more than a couple of grams difference until you get to the 13-metre section. So you're not swapping in a big, heavy, unwieldy section that's going to unbalance the pole and put more strain on the sections either side. I've also included in the table the Superium margin, which is an 8.5 metre pole that you can get to 10 metres, and the weights of that, and you can see that that's got very heavy sections, and I'm not sure I'd want to put one of those into the X75 if I had a problem. So other quick good things with the pole, because I can see this is going to be a long video, you get an excellent hard case that I use. You can see in the opening credits photo you get 3 sections one side, loads of room for top kits in the other side. It's got these new kind of end caps rather than the rubber ones that tend to get stuck and kind of weld themselves on. And you can also use those end caps as a bit of a skid bung in the longer sections. And you also get 2 different length cupping kits. So if you're using the short kit, you can then operate your cupping kit at the shorter length. And you do get cups, which might sound obvious, but I did buy a Browning bowl once that came with a cupping kit and no cups. Right. Let's go to the video and then I'll cover a bit more. I'm hoping that showed you the performance of the pole. Now, all the kits were elasticated. The match kit had a 1.2mm hybrid. The F1 kit had a 1.6mm and the carp kit had a 2mm. So it's real life, not just putting the best kit on, holding it in an alley and saying that's fantastic. What you'll also see is I've put the actual length that you're fishing at, and we don't fish to a distance very often. You're not going to turn up and say, I need to fish 12.4 meters today. But it does make me laugh when you're on the internet and people say, oh, I fished at 14.5 meters today, and you're holding the 14.5, you haven't got the dolly butt in, you're about 13.5 meters. And I even saw a video of somebody claiming how good their pole was at 14.5. They didn't put the dolly butt in, and they even put short 3 in. So they're probably about 13 meters. So there's a lot talked about that, but nobody seems to bother, apart from me, giving exact measurement. So if you're holding the 13 meter butt of either of the two poles, then you've got 12 meters in front of you. And this is why the Power Carp actually comes with a 1 meter extension. So they are selling a full 13 meter pole. So as with all videos, when you're filming a pole from behind, it can look like it droops because you're condensing 16 meters into a tiny little space. So that's how all the pole looks. Don't forget, this is stiffer than all the ones that are listed at the beginning. I couldn't really tell the difference putting the Power Carp section in. Now, I dare say if I'd spent all day fishing at 14.5 meters and I'd swapped it out, I might be able to tell. But the difference, I'm not sure I could tell. I'm not sure you can tell on the video as well. I've also tried to show that using a short 3, you lose a bit of length. But if you put a dolly in, you're about the same length as using a long 3. And I think it was more responsive with the short 3 and the dolly rather than the long 3. I use short 3s all the time. I don't know why you wouldn't, unless you need the depth for deeper venues. If you're fishing venues that are 6, 7, 8 foot deep, the short 3 means the rig swings in perfectly as well. I just think sometimes if you get a bonus fish, you can break down at the short 3, still access the side puller. It's just a great way to do it. I know Andy Bennett's talked in the past, he's a big fan, and he said he'd rather have a short 3 and a dolly than fishing the long 3. Right, what's missing? Possible improvements or concerns I have with this pole. Well, the new Matrix pole has come with markers every meter along the pole. I don't need that. If I'm fishing between a section, I will put some of the excellent Guru tape on. Then you don't even have to look down. You can feel the tape, you know where you're going to be. I don't want to be looking down, oh, I'm at the 12 meter indicator. No benefit. I think the new map poles have got some tactile areas on the bottom of the bigger sections. Not for me. I don't need it. I don't feel I have a problem. I don't know what problem that's solving. Somebody I saw said, oh, can you do all the depth markers in a lighter colour? Not really an issue for me. I still mark it with a crayon. I can still see what the numbers are. I think spares is always a question with Preston and any Far East made pole. And COVID, a lot of the manufacturers got a bad rap. Have they improved? Only time will tell. I wanted another long 3, and I found one straight away on the internet. It turned up next day. And I think getting hold of spares does depend on the shop you use. And I would go back to Toddler Manor, massive client of Preston, and I think they'd be the best for getting a new section. What I would like to see with the pole, or available for the pole, is some of the little short section protectors that you put in the various sections. And I'll put a photo of the matrix ones here, and they go in every section, I think from 5 right to the biggest section, and it's just better than a skid bung. Skid bungs can be a little bit faffy, and I'm surprised Preston haven't done this, because there's definitely money to be made here if you made a set of those that fit the pole. I'm a very happy Preston pole owner. It's my first ever Preston pole, and I never really fancied one before. The new map and the new matrix weren't out when I bought my pole. That's just life, isn't it? You can wait forever waiting for a new release. They seem to have similar levels of stiffness and performance. I will say some the top kits are higher priced, especially for the map, and neither of those two ranges of poles have been fully tested yet. They're brand new to the market. They haven't had a summer, so that all these people saying, oh well, I know a mate who broke a Superium number 3. It might be that there's some issues with these. We don't know yet. What I will say is, if you're spending a lot of money, it's really worth going to a pole alley. You pick up a pole and you hadn't even thought of it and think, that is exactly what I want. That's what I like in a pole. There is personal preference to this. There isn't a best pole on the market. It's all subjective. That's it. I can tell by the time at the top there that this is a really long video. It's got tons of detail. You don't have to watch it. I get people say I've been boring before and I've been too slow. Fast forward. If you just want to watch the bit of video with the pole, that's absolutely fine. But if you're thinking of buying this pole, or a pole in this kind of price bracket, I'm hoping I've given you some real detail today to help you in that decision. If you want to give me a like and subscribe, that's fantastic. I got recognised on the bank again, not for my face. Somebody heard my voice, and I do live in Gloucestershire, and I was in Wales fishing a match, so I'm guessing my voice stands out a bit, but hello to Clayton. And if you've got any questions or comments on the video, put them down below. I'll come back to you as soon as I can. Until next time, tight lines.